I will try to make it as short as possible because I know that lunch is approaching and everybody is becoming hungry soon and impatient, but let's try to make it in 15 minutes. I will just make a very short comparison of the countries around the Baltic Sea. And then I would make some comments on the current economic situation in Estonia, namely how we in Estonia observed the economic crisis and what kind of measures our government took and where we see our perspective. And third and definitely very, very, very important point is our preparations to joining Eurozone. Mart Laar didn't mention that about too much, but this is a top priority in the country, not only for the government, but I think I can also say here this is sort of national goal and people are very much committed and they are supporting. There is a huge public support towards joining Euro. Well, yes, these are some first indicators in the Baltic Sea region here. There is the comparison made by IMF among 3 Baltic countries. And I would like to show you this table because to show that all 3 Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, we have been doing more or less in the same way. And we have got more or less the same results. And this is, I can tell you that this is most often question now what people ask me in Brussels, that how and why Estonia makes a difference in the moment joining Eurozone. Because if you look on the macroeconomic figures, then in the first moment it looks like that we are all in the similar level. But if we go further, then you will see the differences. Here is the same thing, but including the other countries around the Baltic Sea, including Germany, Poland, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. And again, you can see that the fall has taken place in all countries, of course, much more in the Baltic countries because our growth was also very high and then the crash was also much deeper. But as the perspective shows, this is until 2014, it looks at least from the IMF view quite promising. And here is a comparison also by GDP per capita between 3 Baltic countries. Again, you can see that, well, there are differences, but not such a drastic differences between 3 countries. And here you can see the same figure, including then the more prosperous countries around the Baltic Sea. So I just keep some other things shorter here and move directly then to the point that what our government is doing and how the whole economic situation looks today. Well, as we see, it starts to stabilize, but we can also observe that the sustained recovery is going still take some time. And serious cutbacks on spending have markedly diminished the dependence of Estonia's economy on foreign capital flows, owing to which the country's current account is in surplus and external debt is decreasing. And I put this especially this point here because current account deficit has been a big trouble for my country for many years. Because when the consumption increased and people started to buy more goods or services, especially which were imported, then we faced, on the other hand, a very high current account deficit. And as we say that there is no bad without good, and in the moment we can also see that achieving the current account, current account into the balance, it is also quite promising, and it has just happened last year in the very turning point when the economy was in the lowest level. Then the next slide takes the interesting comparison what we also see in this crisis, that all the goods which are open to the exports or linked directly to the free market system, functioning of the free market rules, in these fields we can see that the prices are going down as well, just accordingly to the world prices. And as a result, the cost of the consumer basket is decreasing. And at the same time, the monopolies, all the fields, these are just some mentioned here, like a water supply or sewage and public transport, has not started to cheapen. And the prediction by the Bank of Estonia is that in this sector we will not probably see much move even in the coming next years. And the resumption of the economic activity will be led by the exporting sector, what we believe, what the economic professor from Germany was not that optimistic when he made a similar point concerning the situation in Germany. But of course, Estonian and German economy cannot be compared in any ways, because the sizes are simply so different. And the Estonian economy is, in this, within the European Union, perhaps we can say that this is like a micro economy, because we have 1.34 million people living in the country only. And therefore, the perspective still is in exports. As long as the markets around our normal exporting markets like Finland or Sweden or the other countries around in our neighborhood, when they start to consume again more import from us, including Germany, then immediately this creates again for us new jobs, and we are looking very much forward, especially the predictions in international level also show up that in Finland and Sweden the economy also starts to recover, and for the next year we have much higher expectations. As concerns the labor market, then the same. We have seen drastic changes in the labor market. Like in even 2007, we had a huge demand of labor force. There was such a small unemployment, like 2%, and there was no competition almost at all in the labor market. Today, the situation is totally different. It has approached, the unemployment has approached almost 14%, and it may grow even more in this year. But nevertheless, again, as I said, you can see also the positive side of the crisis, and this one of the positive sides definitely is that it has reduced labor force costs. We also adopted last year a new labor law, which gives more flexibility both to employer and employees, and we very much look forward that this new law will also shape the new growth. And also the predictions by the Bank of Estonia show that next year there should be some light already coming out in the field of labor market. Now the government actions. The government has consolidated the state budget. The actions have taken, they mostly curtailed costs, but to some extent also increased revenues. And I just give you perhaps some examples that nevertheless, Estonia is known as a very low taxes country, flat tax country, but still we, in this crisis situation, what we probably wouldn't do in the usual situation, we had to increase some taxes. We increased, for example, VAT. In some countries, they lowered it, but we did increase it for 2%. It used to be 18, now it is 20%. Then we increased the excise taxes on fuel, tobacco, and alcohol, like this is experience from many other countries from the past crisis. And We also increased, for example, the unemployment security payments, which used to be very, very low because, as I explained, we had such a situation in the labor market, but now also this tax has been increased. And we suspended the government payments to the second pension pillar, which means that government paid, the employee paid 1% of his or her income, and government added 2% for this payment. And this is called, the system is called in our case the second pillar, and we stopped the system because we all know what happened to the pension funds in this crisis. But the system, if the crisis will change, better times will come, then at least we hope to open this system again in 2011. And yes, and of course reducing public expenditure. For example, the salaries of the government officials, government administration officials has reduced approximately 20% in 2 years. And at the same time, yes, to see it also from the social point of view, then the government did not diminish the pensions. We froze the pensions, but we did not diminish this. Like, for example, in Latvia, they reduced the pensions which are paid. We managed to keep the level on the same level as it used to be in 2008. So it is today, and we have some indicators where we reaccount, and there is a small raise, but not a fall. And also the parental payments, we have a so-called parents' salary, if I may say so, to families who have small children. And also we use now, and people who are unemployed, they started to use very, very actively all the benefits which are foreseen for unemployed people, also with the support EU programs that people go for retrainings. And I must say that this has become very, very popular and very positively received, as also it's supported by the government. And a second point here, that Estonia's small fiscal deficit and low public debt serve as a competitive advantage in the light of rapidly growing public debt in some other countries. And here I illustrate you something where what we are ourselves very proud. You can see here the public balance. Estonia is here. And now you can see where the differences are coming if you see Latvia here and Lithuania there. Then and also from the earlier years, it's not so longer, but in this picture you can see that the public expenditure balance has been in Estonia kept under control, not only in these difficult times, but this has been a long-lasting policy. And here, perhaps even more bigger slide, that this is the balance. This is our state budget in 2003 till 2007. You can see the figures. It has been in surplus, almost 3% in 2006. And in 2008, when all these crashes started, then of course our state budget also faced difficulties. But we did not, this was also a political decision. This minus 3% is not just it happened to be so, but this was a very clear political decision that we keep the Maastricht criteria and we don't let the budget balance lower than minus 3%, as you can see perhaps in the case of Greece or some other countries or Latvia who are in the major troubles in the moment. And yes, and the public debt, this is the other figure also important for joining Eurozone, but not only because of that, this has been also a very long-lasting policy in Estonia. Even before we started to prepare to join Eurozone, still we kept the public loans, foreign loans, very low. And here among the EU countries, you see Estonia is first. And in the moment, the foreign debt for the public sector from the GDP is about 10% in Estonia, when the allowed public debt in the Maastricht criteria can be up to 60%. And the situation in the credit markets, I can't be too long here explaining this, but credit markets also, like in many other countries in Europe, are facing quite the same situations, because either the private households or the companies, they are behaving quite similarly in the crisis situation, because they all have a lack of confidence. They don't know what is going to happen next day, and this is quite a characteristic also in my country. Just some figures perhaps to see and to compare how then the companies, for example, in the crisis situation, how they are behaving in the credit markets. You see this blue line is balance of savings of the companies, and the red line is balance of loans of companies. That shows that the companies started to also to take less loans. But I think the good news here is that they did not reduce their savings, but rather you can see that the savings are going a little higher. And the financial institutions also, you see the blue line is for financial institutions, where you see that they also have their savings are growing, and the loans have been, of course, going very much down. As concerns the private persons, the tendency is pretty similar here. Loans are going down, and savings going up, which is different from the US, if I may make this comparison again with my ex-previous speaker, who explained that now in the United States, as people realized that this situation is not that bad, they started to expend again more and more, and not to save, but we see the different tendencies. Still in Estonia, people are saving. And I think that this is for the government side, I think this is also very, very promising, because the balance of savings in public sector, you see, it goes really immediately up, not down, fortunately. And the balance of loans of public sector has been increasing a bit, yes, but quite in a modest way. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I take some comments also. Estonia's joining to Eurozone. This is our commitment. This is just not only our some sort of wishful thinking, but as we joined the European Union and signed the accession treaty, so we took an obligation to join Eurozone. And yes, the Estonian krone, here it is, 100 krones. But what I want to say is that we have introduced in 1992 currency board, despite of the criticism of IMF in that time. We introduced the currency board and a very clear convergence system between, in that time, Deutsche Mark, and later on with the euro. And this has been, in 17 years, the rate hasn't been changed. And we are going to join also Eurozone with keeping this rate. That means that 1 euro is 15.64 Estonian krones, and this 100 krones, which has been in Estonia in use since 92, basically this has still the same value of 6.41 euros. So, well, the euro, of course, it's without any explanation why we want it. We want to draw the investors' attractions, and of course, there is perhaps we don't realize every day, but Eurozone countries in Europe have their separate decision-making procedures, and those countries who are not in Eurozone, they are out of these decision-making procedures. And this is not just some sort of unuseful thing, but it means a lot in political decision-making, especially in the fiscal and monetary field. And, well, I will not probably go too long in these details concerning the convergence criteria. These are Maastricht criteria, which are very clearly fixed, and Estonian political position is also very clear that we are going to join Eurozone only when we can fulfill these criteria. We don't claim to special treatment or something like that. And why we missed joining Eurozone earlier, for example, together with Slovakia, who joined the Eurozone last year, was too high rate of inflation. And again, in fast-growing economy and with a big foreign account balance deficit, we created higher and higher inflation year after year. And this was the only criteria, actually, what we couldn't fulfill in that time and also for many earlier years. Now, again, this crisis has helped us to keep the inflation down as long people don't consume that much. Of course, the inflation is low, and we are ready to meet the criteria. So this simply shows that how high the inflation has been. Even well, last year it started to fall, and now it's the prediction is very optimistic. And well, these are the budgetary slides. Probably you already see them in my earlier slides. Simply to say that, as you see, we predict to be under the zero level till 2011. On 2012, we tried to keep state budget again into the balance. And since 2013, we are prognosing already the slight surplus. Sorry, I put the word. Yes, and this is again this figure which shows the public foreign loans, which are very, very low in Estonian case. As I said, 60% is the ceiling of the Maastricht criteria, but in Estonian case it has been over the years since 2000. You see, it's very, very low. Not in like in many EU countries. It's much higher. Yes, and the long-term interest rate. This is just a quoting from the Commission's report, which also says it's that Estonia meets it. Of course, well. Joachim Almunia, still a commissioner in office on these issues, has said not only in November but later on also before the European Parliament in December that Estonia is very likely going to join Euro. And again, some arguments that I already talked to you. And well, what the perspective is, yes. What we are looking forward, that we hope very much in the government that we can survive this crisis without creating massive debt, and at the same time maintaining reserves. I didn't mention reserves, which also differs Estonia, for example, from Latvia drastically, because when all the crisis started, we had reserves, what we collected in the good times, and we didn't really open these reserves yet so far, and hopefully we don't need to do it. Yes, this is what we also see. We would like to have a budget in balance, surplus, without increasing tax burden anymore, because, as I said, we already did it in several cases. And I'm concluding this fast statement with the latest quoting from Financial Times, John Desart, who looks to be very positive about Estonia. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the attention.